BYU reportedly has its basketball coach. And this is stunning. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into an emergency edition of Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thanks for making this your first listen every single day. BYU has reportedly landed its head basketball coach in Kevin Young. This coming from KSL Sports and confirmed by Adrian Wojnarowski. So can I tell you, I enjoy talking about BYU athletics. Look, I just got the email from BYU Athletics. Welcome, Coach Young. I enjoy talking in a positive light about BYU because I respect their reverence for faith and what the institution is, and that they hold themselves to a higher, different standard and different level. And I'm not like, this isn't me trying to blow any hot air up your skirt. What the heck? BYU just landed. Like I objectively, this is not me favoring it, just as someone who watches sports. BYU just hired the NBA's #1 assistant, the guy who is making more money than any other assistant in the country. Not only that, he apparently, according to KSL, had some deal on the table with the whole Brooklyn Nets, a literal NBA team, to be their head coach for around $5 million a year. What? Sources told KSL that he was the top candidate in the eyes of BYU legend Danny Ainge, who shared his advice when contacted by BYU decision makers Todd Holmoe and Brian Santiago during the search. So as I'm talking about Burgess and different guys who could be BYU's next head coach because they have this niche, I need you to understand, there were high school head coaches, granted legendary high school head coaches in the state of Utah who had won a lot and been at the college ranks before, but still high school head coaches who were rumored about this gig. And they hired a guy who could very well have been an NBA head coach next year, and better yet, is the best assistant coach in the league. Only 42 years old. Guy has been coaching in college basketball, overseas, in the pros for 20 years, doing this thing as a profession, and has worked under some of the great coaches in the NBA as well. And the guy's resume is unbelievable. Like, he's going to go from coaching Devin Booker and Kevin Durant to BYU basketball. And this is not a slight on BYU. It just doesn't feel like that usual. I mean, BYU's great at the mundane hire. The guy who is not a big name that comes in and makes himself a big name because of what he does at BYU. The guy who's a member of the LDS Church, someone who you probably haven't heard of, but he's native to Utah, or he can run, he can talk to college, high school coaches and other college coaches across the country and transfer portal conversations and understands the culture of BYU. And you say, oh, wow, I like this guy's resume. He has a lot of BYU connections. And then there's this, the one that merges everything. The guy who has been out west, the guy who has coached Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, Grayson Allen, and others. And now he's the head coach. According to his Wikipedia page, by the way, he was married to his wife in the Salt Lake Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I know it's not a requirement, but it is going to make 98% of BYU fans very happy that they've stayed within the faith. And it's not something that, I've had a couple people that have given me flack the last few days for how much I brought up the LDS faith in this coaching search, but that's a big part of the BYU coaching search. And it's also a big part of the Grand Canyon or Notre Dame or Baylor coaching searches. They want to go after coaches that have morals and ethics that align with their faith affiliation. And at BYU, it's taken to an extreme, and an extreme that I think is admirable. And now Kevin Young is the head coach that fits that. From Oxford College to the head coach of the Flash, and coaching guys like Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, TJ McConnell, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler. Like, this guy's just got tomorrow, if he's bored, You call up Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and just see how they're doing. And he's the head coach of the BYU Cougars. This, of all of the guys listed, is nuts. An aggressive push, Woj called it, to hire NBA's highest paid assistant. And BYU has now landed Kevin Young as its coach. If I am the rest of the Big 12, does anybody else in the conference as a head coach have that kind of resume at the professional level? Probably not. And obviously like a Bill Self or a Scott Drew, those guys who have national championships, Kelvin Sampson has been to the Final Four. They have the pedigree of a college coach. They know how to work the transfer portal. Does this guy know how to work the portal? Can he recruit the high school ranks? He's been out of the NIL game. Like, does he bring any of that from the NBA level that he can translate to the college level? That's a question to be asked. Is that a hole that Young can fill? So it's tough to compare him to some of the legends of the Big 12, but nobody else has done this in the pros. Nobody else is revered as the best assistant in professional basketball, as the guy in the NBA who was next up. He was next up for a head coaching position in the league and probably would have had one next year and said, you know what? Nah. Instead, I'm going to go to BYU, where he can craft a program that is in a great spot after Mark Pope left. And I would love to know Mark Pope's reaction. The guy who has not said really anything about BYU, anything about his time. The further we get from when he left, now that we're a few days away, you get more and more information about how tumultuous the program was, how tumultuous the locker room was, and how things weren't always rosy around his program. That's damning. And now he gets the news that, They were going to be sad that I left, but now they got the number one assistant in the NBA. I'm sure he's doing fine in Kentucky, but he gets that notification on his phone and goes, crap. Dang it. They didn't miss me for very long. No, they didn't, Mark. You didn't win a single NCAA tournament game. You had those kids take off their horns down shirts. I don't know if Kevin Young's going to do that. Probably not. Wow, man. The Burgess conversation. All these high school coaches we were talking about. Does BYU go to Utah Valley? Do they scoop somebody up in state? They said, nah, man, we're just going to hire the next best thing in the NBA. The 42-year-old guy who is a Wonderkins rock star Rembrandt, offensive guru genius. What the heck? This is stunning. I don't know. I just didn't expect it to be this. This is huge. Congrats, BYU. What the heck, man? I thought West Virginia definitely had the best splash hire. I thought they were going to continue to have the best splash hire of the offseason. And then this guy is turning down $5 million. Can't work it out with the Nets. He's a Cougar. Nice job. This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. We'll talk to you more about it tomorrow. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.